in a court case, it's all about the offender. It's not about the victim. We're just bystanders at the back of the court. So we don't really matter. That's the honest truth about what it's like to be a victim. And as soon as they're found guilty, it's finished. We're on our own. And we're on our own, we're left with lots of questions. And the only people who can answer that are them.
Yeah, we walked away from the Old Bailey with their lies ringing in our ears, and it wasn't good enough. It really wasn't, to leave us like that. It was like they left us high and dry. And you need to move on. Victims, they need to move on, don't they? You can't move on if you're stuck there. At the time, I said they don't deserve forgiveness. I don't understand how you would do that. To me, it seemed like, you've got to be remorseful to earn forgiveness. I didn't really understand that it was about me. I didn't understand that it was like drinking a glass of poison and hoping it poisons them, only it doesn't, because it actually poisons you. This bitter root, this anger, began to shape my life and began to take over me. My granddaughter, she didn't want to sit with me. She said, "Nanny, you're an angry person." I didn't realise what he was doing to me.
They walked in our house and word calm was just right for these two people, Helen and Martin, the facilitators. They brought a peace with them. And the first thing they said to me in Vi is, "What are your needs? What can we do for you?" In all those years since those boys were put in prison, no one asked us that, did they?
Nobody had ever asked us what we needed to say. So we started pouring it out, and she said, "Whoa, slow down, I need to write some of this down." But 11 years of waiting with all of this in ourselves, and she's going, "Hang on, we'll ask one at a time."
They went away, came back a few weeks later, and they dropped a bombshell. They said, "We met all three boys, we spoke to them, and all three want to meet you." Couldn't believe it, could we?
It quite astounded us, because we never expected. And we said, "Look, we're not going to meet them unless they're willing to tell the truth, because we're not going to be victimised again." And she said, no. They're all three are very remorseful.
And it was coming up to their release dates. So it's not done like that. It's months and months of preparation. And they picked a hall, which is about a 10-minute drive from our house. So we're driving down to this community centre. We pull in a car. They give you a timetable. When you arrive at 12, we'll come down at 12:10, take you up. He will arrive at 1:45, all this. And so you don't meet the car park. There's so much risk assessments going on, it's unbelievable. So we pulled into the car park, I parked the car, we sat there, turned the engine on, and went, "Are we really going to do this? Are we really?"
It seemed quite ludicrous that we were actually really going to go and meet those boys who killed Chris, right? But then we had that thought of, we've got to do this. We need those answers. We've got to get that.
So now we're in this room. There's chairs all in a circle with our names on. There's a get-out room. So if anything you see you don't like, we can either go out or he can. And I'm watching the door. I'm sitting looking at the door, and the handle goes down, and then he walked. And the first thing I noticed was he was wearing a suit, shirt and tie, polished shoes and haircut. That was respect. And I just stood up and went like that. I went, "Come here." He went over, came over, put his arms around me and whispered, "Thank you."
He said, "Can I hug you?" I said, "Yeah, come on then." 26 years old now, not 15 anymore. When he killed Chris, he was 15. But he still looks like a little boy. So he's hugging me. So I say to him, "Hey, young man, we forgive you for killing Chris. We want you to have the life that Chris can't have, because we all have to move on into the future. Can't really do anything about the past, but we can do something about the future, can't we?" And he started to cry.
When we all calmed him down, didn't we? He sat down. There's no rules in restorative justice, but the unofficial rule is the offender speaks first, and the victims speak afterwards. He told us all about that night and what he did to Chris, and he asked us to keep that confidential, and on the restorative justice rules we do that. But then he said to us, "When I was in prison, I fought the system." He said, "But then they put me in a victim awareness course, and would you believe it's a course we do in prisons?" And he said, it was an old lady, it was a break-in. He said, it wasn't a murder, it was a break-in. And from that day to this, I can't get Chris out of my head and out of my heart. We had to go through the process all again of meeting the second boy, Stephen. And as he had to come around the corner to come into the room. It was a big, large room. And as he walked around the corner, I stood up, held out my hands like this, and me and him broke every risk assessment going. He didn't walk up to me, he ran. He ran up to me, grabbed me so tight I couldn't breathe. He squeezed every bit of life out of me, and he cried on my shoulder like a baby, kept sobbing. And every time, even now when I think about it, I can smell his tobacco in his aftershave. He wouldn't let go. Every time he'd break, he'd grab me again. The emotion in the room. Then he ran over to you, didn't he? Squeezed you so tight,
I
didn't
thought
he?
you'd never ever sit down. And you know, he was in such a state. He'd waited so long to tell the truth. It was, well, just about everybody in the room was crying. Probation officers, everyone. We were all floored by this, and you never really think, do you, that anyone in the prison really cares, but they do. This is something you think they don't thinking about.
This is the young man that the chaplain says you're not ready. This is the young man that was ready, but people stopped him.
Yeah.
This is the young man, probation back then, wouldn't let him meet us. So he had all that emotion built up all those years, didn't he?
I just think it's so sad that someone would be left like that with all that emotion and not know where to go, because we had a lot of that, and so did he.
Now I asked all three of them, I said, I don't think you should apologise to me, but I should apologise to Chris personally. I invited him to his grave. Steve was the only one with the guts to come. It was pouring down with rain. We pulled up first, then he came second in his van, his probation officer came afterwards. And I said to him, Chris is down there, second grave on the left. As you're walking down to Christopher's grave, you've got 110, 97, 85. Every one of these people have had a life. You get to his grave, 18. There's about 20 graves in front of him, maybe more, 25 graves down the line. He walked down with his probation officer with a bunch of flowers in his hand. And I watched him. I've got to be honest, I looked up and said, God, you're asking too much of me today. So we went for a walk about 20 minutes. Came back 20 minutes later, he's still standing, well, he's on his knees, still on his knees by the headstone. I said, get up. He got up, I said, we're here, Christopher's here. Let me tell you about Chris. Chris had this attitude, shit happens, get over it. We live by that now, don't we? I said, Chris was here with you right now. Chris will say, you're forgiven, move on. That's the kind of kid he was. So you just take that note first. And he went, can I come back? I went, of course you can. He said, well, there's someone here, I don't want to offend no one. I said, Steve, no one knows you from Adam. Anybody else you are, say his friend. We can't change the past, mate. We can all move into the future. What were you doing in the car park?
In the car park later, we exchanged photographs, us of our granddaughter and Stephen of his son. And it said everything to us about moving on, the new life. This is new life, not living in the past. Yeah. The probation officer, Stephen's probation officer, since many years later told us it was the highlight of her career, that one day. It was a remarkable day, and I'm glad we did it, I really am.
Last one, I could tell you the date exactly, March the 3rd, 2013. I don't know why that sticks in my head, that one. We're in South Croydon. Again, we're in the room. Again, he walked in, I got up and cuddled him. Go like this, up and down, my head, you're doing my head in, you're doing my head in, you're doing my head in, didn't he? He kept saying that, you're doing my head in.
This is not how it was meant to be, he said. I said, well, how was it meant to be? What do you want us to do? We can't hit you. It serves no purpose.
We're all sitting in a circle, and he brought his dad with him. The other two brought their probation officer with them, but he brought his dad. This is Ryan. And the only people that speak in the room was me, Vi, Ryan, and the facilitators, no one else. Ryan told us his story. We're allowed to mention this. He said, when everybody left, when everybody ran, I kept stamping on Christopher's head. I heard him moaning. I thought he'd get up, I'd give him a few more stamps. He said, "I'll give a few kicks." And he said, "I still heard him moaning." The woman shouted, "The police are coming." I ran to the alleyway. This is how he described it in the meeting. So I looked around the corner of the wall. I saw the headlights of the car come up over Chris and drag him down the road. I still thought he'd get up. I said, "What are you, some kind of a stupid idiot?" He said, "No, Ray, it works in video games."
You can't say that. He said, "You don't understand. I killed your son. I own that. I did it. I'm trying to describe to you an unreal world that I lived in. Those Grand Theft Auto games, those terrible guns and knives and gore and blood, they're not real, but I lived in them so long, and then I added crack cocaine and drink, and they're all unreal worlds, and before I know it, I don't know the difference anymore. But I killed your son. Me. That's the truth. You know, we can't change what's happened to Chris. We can't, none of us bring him back. But moving on, wow, that's wonderful. With the truth, at last, yeah. It's good.
It's an experience we would recommend to anybody. No matter how many years has gone by, it's up to the victim to say yes or no. Restorative justice is victim-led, victim-centred. So if the victim says no, it can't happen, they say yes, it will. And 9 times out of 10 victims might say no, unless they give you a letter. And which is fantastic. We all deserve a second chance, don't we? Everybody deserves a second chance. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with second chances. I never thought I'd ever say that.